I'm going to change the stream info. Okay, so chat. All right, so it looks like we're live. I'm going to go ahead and share this out just so people can watch if they want. But I think I should probably, this is a good time to, and I'm probably going to say this like 4 times just because if you're not interested in seeing what the content of Dominaria is, this is not the stream for you. We're just going to go ahead and look over and talk about some of the cards that are in the, because they released the full set spoiler today. So we're going to go ahead and look at what's coming out next week, talk about things, see what would be good, what wouldn't be good, maybe have a little fun with it. This should just be kind of a fun stream, I think. So, yeah, if you guys just check it out and whatever you guys want to talk about. So, there's definitely some cards I have some strong opinions about and some that I can't wait to play with. So, let's go ahead and talk about that. So, as you can see, this is completely up on the Magic website right now. Yay, a day early. I wonder if that means, it doesn't seem like someone oopsed because, well, all the other articles talked about it. So, let's see what we got here. This is an interesting card. Baird Steward Bargiv. Argive? I'm going to butcher names. This is going to be so much fun. We haven't seen tax creatures. Like, I don't think we've had really one in a while. I know we had one in Origins with Bryn Wingmare, but this one's kind of cool too. We occasionally get them here and there, but most of the time we don't get these kind of cards. Or at least we haven't gotten a lot of them recently. It's interesting that it's an uncommon. So this is a guy we're going to see pretty often. In draft. He's going to be interesting. He's 2/4 vigilance for 4. That's not bad stats either for white. So let's see what else we got here. This guy's just going to be fun to play with. Anytime you have a dude that makes your other dudes bigger, that's a good card. Typical removal for 5. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a historic card from among them and put them into your hand. It's just a sort of tutor. It is for a historic card for a... So basically it's commune with the dinosaurs for a historic card. I don't know how that's going to play out. There's a lot of them in this set, so I think it's going to be reasonable. But, it's okay. It depends on what's in your deck. It really does. This is not going to be something you're going to slam first pick. I have a feeling that this is going to be one of those cards that's like at the very end of the pack in the draft that nobody really wants. unless it's really, it could turn out to be good, but I have a feeling it's just going to be one of those last cards in the pack. This card makes me happy. You get 2 bodies for 4 mana that total 4 power and 4 defense, both of which have vigilance. That is great. This is a great defense against menace, which there's quite a few menace creatures in this set. This is great for just so many little things. And it's 4 mana, and it's at common, so you're going to see this card. This card is going to be great in limited. This card is going to perform really well. It's a very nice go wide strategy. And then, of course, there's the tokens. There's at least one token that I'm absolutely in love with. So, charge, typical thing we get in white. Whenever you cast, this card's going to be good. I think they've really, really pushed the uncommon slot in this set from things I've seen. I mean, the uncommons are kind of silly. First strike, vigilance, lifelink. Bleh. Okay, I'll take it. I've seen rares that only have 2 of those. And you get an additional thing? I mean, sure, it's only a 2/2, but it only costs 3. This is kind of great. I mean, it's great. I would play this every day, all day. That card seems great. Daring Archaeologist. Let's see what this guy does. When Daring Archaeologist enters the battlefield, you may return target artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. That could be good depending on the artifacts you have in your deck. Whenever you cast a historic spell, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Well, it's a 3/3 for 4, so that's decent. And then it's got a fairly reasonable upside. It gets better for every artifact in your deck. So if you're already building around artifacts, this card is going to be good. This card's going to be fairly good. Otherwise, it's just a decent card. I don't think this is something that, I'm going to slam first pick. It's not a windmill first pick, woo! That is not this card. But it's kind of cool. I think this is a more windmill. If it were down to this card and this card in the same pack, I'm taking this card. Just hands down. Dauntless Bodyguard enters the battlefield. Choose another creature you control. Sacrifice it. He's okay. He's got decent stats for a 1/1. And he might save one of your better creatures. It's kind of iffy. 2/2 for strike. That's not terrible. Lifelink. Oh, this card. This card kind of makes me think, this can get real dumb real quick. So, this card says it's a 6 cost, so it's the top end of your curve, but it is a bomb. So, first of all, the important thing to remember is that this has lifelink. And it says, for 4 colorless mana, exchange your life total with this creature's life total. So let's say you're at 12. You pay 4, exchange your life total with this before damage. Not before anything else, but before damage. That way, or if they try to kill it, you do it, so that they can't kill it or something. So you're going to go to 4, but this is going to go to 12. So assuming this hits, you go back up to 16. And you do it and you repeat. So this is a way to make a stupid big creature and have a stupid amount of life total. I like this card. I want to play with this card. This is one of the cards I hope to open, because this card's funny. This card is hilarious. Let's see what else we got here. Excavation Elephant. Some people, I think this is a mixed thing. I hate the layout of the sagas. I just don't like the way it's laid out. It's just awkward to me. Some of them are great. I like the abilities. I like the design. I just don't like the card layout. So silly. I don't like it. So destroy all lands. Ooh, Armageddon for 6. But then everybody gets lands back. So I would have to play with this to really understand if it's good or bad. My initial impression is that it's not great. Unless you have a card that lets you put multiple lands into the battlefield and you're holding them back. But again, this is 6 mana, so it really depends on what you're playing. I don't think I'd ever run this. I'd have to have a really good reason to try it out. So this card just doesn't strike me as like a great card. Gideon's Reproach, we've seen this. It's Fantastic in limited. If you're in white, that's the removal you're looking for. Prevent 3 damage that would be dealt to any target creature this turn by source of your choice. You gain 3 life. Meh? Not great, but it's not bad. This card seems decent. For 3 mana, you're gonna at least get a dude. 2/2 Vigilance Knight. And there is a Knight sub-theme, so you're gonna do that twice in a row, and then on the 3rd turn, you're gonna have 4/3 Knights. Yeah, that seems good. Of course, that's not until turn 6 at the earliest. But at that point, I think you're doing okay. That's okay. It's typical. So these guys, I don't know how they're gonna play out. They're not as good as the protection because you can't attack through a bunch of black creatures, a bunch of white creatures. It only protects them from spells. So it's kind of a nerf of the protection mechanic. I do like that it has first strike. I do like that it gets bigger if you're playing a black-white deck. And again, there's a Knight sub-theme, so there's things that affect Knights specifically. So this card, I think this is a card that I'd be willing to take pretty early. And I wouldn't be unhappy to have it in my deck. Again, it's a 2/2 for 2 with a pretty good upside, with a couple of upsides, not just one, because it's got first strike. It can't be destroyed by one of the best colors for removal in the game, and it gets bigger. So I'm okay with this card. I think it's a decent card. I think it's an interesting design with the hexproof. I think it's territory we haven't been yet, which is fine. I think that's kind of cool. Let's see. Creatures you control with first strike have double strike. Well, we just saw that there are a couple creatures with first strike, so this card's not bad, but you're going to have to draft around it. Again, this is at uncommon. So much of this set, the good cards that I'm like, ooh, are at uncommon. So I'm like, I like this set. I think this set is going to be hilarious to draft. So this card makes me happy. I want a copy of this card. I think it's going to be fun. I think this is a card I want for Commander specifically because Angel tribal decks would be great with this card. So first of all, it's flying, it's first strike, it's lifelink, and then it makes all of your Angels a little bit bigger and also lifelink. That seems good. I could handle that. That looks like a very fun card to me. 2/2 lifelinker, that's fine. Enchanted creature is legendary, gets +1/+1, has flying, vigilance. Oh god, this card's silly. It is an aura, so auras are a little bit harder to deal with, and the fact that it's legendary kind of actually makes it less valuable. But as we saw with Mark of the Vampire, if there's not a lot of removal for enchantments, if the creature removal's weak, this card's going to be great. Because it gives you evasion, it gets your dudes bigger, and it gives you lifelink. Which, Mark of the Vampire was literally half of this card, but it was super powerful in the last meta. Again, very different environment, and I think there's probably more removal in this set than there was in the Ixalan block, for that matter. Pegasus Courser gives your dudes flying. That's not terrible. Sanctum Spirit. Lifelink. Discard a historic card. Sanctum Spirit gains indestructible till the end of turn. If you have a way to get stuff back from your discard pile, so this card works really well with the Archaeologist, because you can discard stuff to it and then get it back. So you can save a 3/2 lifelinker. That's an okay thing to do with it. There might be better things to do. It does make it to where your damage can get through if they have a kill spell, so it is an upside. Don't get me wrong. I don't know that it's a horribly high pick. It's still a decent pick, but I'd say this is more middle of the pack. Seal Away. Flash. When Seal Away enters the battlefield, exile target tapped creature an opponent controls until Seal Away leaves the battlefield. So this card is awesome. And part of what makes this card awesome is two things. Two, it says two, and flash. This cast is an instant, and it just says, I don't want to deal with this. So this is a great combat trick as well as just solid removal. I like this card. I think this card's going to see standard play as well. I think because this is kind of like a card called Silk Wrap from Dragons? Or was it Fate? I don't remember. It's one of those. It's from that block. So, let's see. Sergeant at Arms. When you enter the battlefield, if it was kicked, create 2 white soldier tokens. So, for 3, you get a 2/3. For 6, you get a 2/3 and 2 1/1. So that's not terrible. That's decent. It's a common. It's fine. It's a decent card. It's something you're gonna want in your deck. One of the greatest things about when you're playing limited that you want to keep in mind is that you want something to do with your mana in the late game. You want to be efficient. So Kicker gives you that. It gives you a way to say, wow, I have 8 mana and nothing to do with it. So if you have things like Kicker, like what was her name? The life linker that you switch life totals with that costs 4, that's a nice mana sink. And that can be done at instant speed. So you can constantly do that and it's still good. So next we have Sarah Angel. Typical, she's going to be good in most of your white decks. She's just a beater. I mean, Air Elemental was great. This is Air Elemental Plus. So this is Air Elemental that does not tap to attack. So this card will be great. It will see play. Sarah Disciple, flying first strike for 2. But it's only a 1/1. And it buffs it if you cast a historic spell. It's okay. I'm not going to be unhappy to run it, but it's okay. Dies to a lot. Shalai, Voice of Plenty. This card's cool too. This card's actually legitimately good. So 4 mana for a 3/4. Perfectly reasonable rate, perfectly good, perfectly playable for the stats. But you, Planeswalker you control, and other creatures you control have hexproof. Basically, it says, this is the only thing on my field they can target. Now, if you're lucky enough to have 2 of those on the field at the same time, they just can't target you. That is fun. And then it has the supplementary ability of saying, we're going to pay 6, 2 green and 4, and we're going to put counters on stuff. We're going to make everything bigger, including itself. So this just gets good, and it just keeps getting better. So I like this card. I think it's a great, well, it's not even a top end, it's a middle end. It's a great card. It's a pretty, it is a bomb to some extent because they can't deal with your stuff. And one of the biggest things that you want to do in limited is deal with their stuff. Whenever you cast to export, so Teshar's Ancestor's Apostle, 4 costs. Flying, whenever you cast a historic spell, return target creature card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Okay, that's cool. So basically, Bishop of Rebirth for legendary dudes. This is not going to be terrible. I think it primarily is going to hit artifacts, but I think there might be a few. So this hits your, let's see, where is it? History of Benalia. It hits that. There's a lot of things it doesn't hit, but the few things that it does hit are going to be decent if you have them. Diantha it hits. So, I mean, there's things it'll hit that it'll bring back that you'll definitely be happy that'll come back. It's not quite as good as Bishop of Rebirth because it doesn't have as many targets to bring back. But it's still going to be good. It's still going to be decent because it is a flyer. I mean, that's a decent rate on a flyer. It's not a great rate, but it's a decent rate. Plus, you can draft around it if you open it early enough. So, Tragic Poet. Sacrifice Tragic Poet, return target enchantment from... Ooh! So, my thought is this means you get extra use out of your sagas. So, I wouldn't mind using this to bring back the what is it? The one that I was really History of Benalia. That would be a really good use of that. That's a noble sacrifice for that. I like that they started making ones that are decent to play and kind of fun to play. So Triumph of Gerard. Put a +1 for 2. You put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control with the greatest power. Okay. And that's the first and the second time. The third time, target creature you control with the greatest power gains flying, first strike, and lifelink until the end of turn. This card's silly. And again, it is uncommon. They really push the uncommons for this set. So it's almost like the uncommons for this set are far better than a lot of the rares. In fact, I'm excited for a lot of these uncommons. I think they're just going to be really cool. So, Urza's Ruinous Blast. Exile all non-land permanents that aren't... I like this card. Okay, so why I love this card is more for Commander. My Commander deck is what I call board wipe tribal. And there's not a lot of things that exile all non-land permanents that aren't legendary. Well, I mean, there's a lot of things it's going to hit in a Commander game. This card is good. It's going to be fun to play with. This is another one of those on my list of things I want to collect for the next set. So, moving on into blue. This is a fun card. This is a fun color. So, let's see. We start out with Academy Drake, which is a 3 cost, 2 in a blue, with a kicker of 4, flying, and it's a 2/2. If Academy Drake was kicked, it enters the battlefield with 2 +1/+1 counters on it. So it's either a 2/2 flyer for 3, or it's a 4/4 flyer for 7, which is still not bad. It's a good mana sink late in game, so this card is going to have impact whenever you play it, pretty much. Flyers are almost always good. So I like this card. I think it's going to be fun to play with. Academy Journey Mage. This spell costs 1 less if you control a wizard. Cool. I like discounts. So you can either cast it for 4 in a blue or 3 in a blue. So that's okay. That's not terrible. When Academy Journey Mage enters the battlefield, return target creature in a... Okay, so it's split. So it's bounced. That's not bad. That's a perfectly playable card. And perfectly reasonable at common as well. So, and the Antiquities War. Let's see if Carrie can speak. So, let's see. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal an artifact card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. Artifacts you control become artifact creatures. Okay, so this is going to be a decent card. If you draft around this, now in Limited, you're going to have to draft around this because you're going to be taking stupid enchantments or artifacts to make this work. If you pull it off, it's going to feel great, but good luck. That's all I got to say. And we haven't gotten to the artifacts yet. If they're great, this card gets better. If the artifacts aren't as good, this card is that much worse. So this card is only as good as the artifacts around it. So there have to be decent artifacts at common and uncommon for this to be decent. Arcane Flight. Okay, so I saw the spoiler for this card, and that art had me giggling for hours. I love this art. It's hilarious. It is great. And it's not a bad 1-cost aura. I mean, auras you can get 2 for 1 pretty easily. But the art just made me giggle. I love this art. So let's see the next one. Artificer's Assistant. It's a 1-drop flyer. Whenever you cast a historic spell, scry 1. So this is a reasonable card. A 1/1 flyer is okay. It's not great, but it's okay. It dies to a lot, but that's okay. But it has a nice upside. So I can see this being very playable. Let's see. Flicker cards are nice. So if you have a lot of cards with enter the battlefield effects, this is going to be great in your deck. Because what it means is you're going to get it twice. And it's not even just creatures. If you have a good artifact that has an enter the battlefield effect, it's going to be great. This is also a good way to blank someone's removal. And if you have the mana to kick it, you get a card out of the deal. That's great. That's perfectly reasonable for the cost. So, Cloud Reader Phoenix. So this works really well with this, because this gives you a scry 2 when it enters the battlefield, and that flickers it and gives you another scry 2. So that's kind of a synergy that goes really well. This guy's going to be great in most draft decks if you're blue, because 6 cost hexproof 4/5. So this is blue's beater. This is blue's stick. If you want to beat people with a stick, this is how you do it. In blue. So this is kind of an interesting thing. So I kind of think this is a cool one. Simply because it says it gives a permanent hexproof. It's a little more expensive than your typical ones like Swiftfoot Boots, or the other one was, I don't remember at the moment. But there's 2 that are constantly used in Commander all the time. And I think this is really cool that for 3 cost you get hexproof on a creature, which means they have to remove this, board wipe, or they can't even bounce the creature because they can't target it. And when you cast a historic spell, if you have anything that's historic that you want, like a legendary or something, there's quite a few legendaries. You get a nice upside for it. That's a pretty decent card. I like this card. I think it protects your bombs pretty well if you got a really good bomb to go with it. So this card's interesting. This has 2 very specific uses. One, you can shut off someone's attacker and make it easier to deal with. But if, let's say you have a 1/1 and you need a defender, you need something to stop their big dude, and a 0/4 will do that. You can use this on your own creatures to do that. So you can protect yourself with it. So that's a really cool card. Diligent Excavator. It's a mill card. It could be fun if there's other things that'll mill them. But I could also see taking, if you get like 4 of these, it could be interesting. But again, it's an uncommon, so you're probably not going to see that many. Divination, typical draw spell for blue. We've seen this many, many times, and it's usually pretty decent. Oh, another mill card. So this one, you get a 3/3 for 4. Oh, no, enters the battlefield. Target player, so this can either, you can mill yourself if you have a bunch of graveyard shenanigans, or it mills your opponent if you were trying to go for a mill plan. So it looks like there's a subtle mill deck here. So hopefully, I think this card's going to be fine, especially since it's a 3/3 for 4 in blue. Something that's awesome to have. In Bolus Clutches. You control targeted. Yeah, this card's going to be good. This type of effect is always pretty strong. It's always a good thing when you can take their biggest creature or their baddest creature and have it just kind of on your side. It removes a threat on their side and kind of gives you one at the same time. So it's a really good way to flip the stakes. That art is really interesting, though. I do like the art on this card. I think it's kind of cool. Karn's Temporal Sundering. This is going to be fine. It's not something you're going to run very often. Oftentimes in Limited, taking an extra turn is great, but in Limited, all it does is gives you maybe an extra attack step or an extra draw and untap. So it's okay. It's not the best thing in the world for limited, but it is good. It's going to be fun to play in other places, but again, the legendary sorcery thing, I'm not sure how that's going to play out. I think it'll play out okay in this specific metagame because there are a lot of decent legendaries that you will run. But I don't know that it'll see any real play. Commander, it might be okay. It depends on what your commander deck's doing. But it is a pretty low cost take extra turns card. And those are kind of hard to find. Merfolk Trickster. Enters the battlefield, tap target creature an opponent controls. It loses all abilities till the end of turn. That's not terrible. So that can shut off a lot of interesting effects. Okay, so what strikes my mind with this one is you can shut off this card. It loses this ability. So you can kill another creature on their side of the battlefield. So that's just an example of things it can do right off the top of my head. So that card's going to be decent. It's going to be kind of a fun card to play with. It's going to be a tricky card to play. But it's still, if nothing else, it's a 2/2 with flash. So the Mirare Conjecture, and I might have screwed that pronunciation up. Yay! Return target instant from your graveyard to your hand. That's going to be mediocre because a lot of the times in Limited, you don't play a lot of instants and sorceries. You play a few, and they're usually removal. So, it could be good, it could be bad, depending on what you've played. Return target sorcery card from your graveyard to hand. Again, same with this. Until the end of turn, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, copy it. You may choose. That's a pretty cool effect. And since you've already done that, unfortunately, I don't think this card is going to be really good in Limited at all. It's just Limited is more about creatures, and this is not going to help you unless you have some amazing removal. I know there's a blue-red Wizards deck. I wonder if that's pretty spell-heavy. I'm going to have to really look at it as a whole to see that and maybe do some test drafts or some test sealeds online to see what that looks like. But if you draft like let's say a deck that centers around spells, this is going to be great. Those don't come together very often at all. So let's see what we got. Naban, Deed of Iteration. I like this card. This is basically Panharmonicon on a stick. So this is going to be good. I like that it costs 2. It's a little fragile at a 2/1, but you're going to treat this as a enchantment most times. You're not going to attack with this. Let's see. Naru Miha. Yay. Master Wizard. Flash. When Naru Miha, Master Wizard, enters the battlefield, copy target instant or sorcery you control. You may choose new targets for that. So you have to have already cast something, and then you cast this to copy that something. So you have to have something worth copying for this to be great. It's still not terrible because it does buff your other wizards. It makes them bigger, and it has flash. And it's got a really good body for 4 mana. So this is definitely playable, even if you aren't able to take if you aren't able to take advantage of this middle ability. It's still a good card. Opt. It's going to be okay. It's going to be decent. Precognition Field. This card seems like it's going to be interesting. It takes a little setup. Again, it relies on having instants and sorceries, but you may look at the top card of your library. So this is different from having it revealed where your opponent knows what it is. They don't. You do. But you can exile that card at any time if you need to dig for something, this can help you dig. So this is an interesting card. I think this is a cool card. It's a neat design. Can't be blocked if you control a historic spell. It's going to be okay. Oh, this is unsummon. Only for anything. So, this is a decent card. Unsummon's good. Sacrifice an artifact, draw a card. That's kind of cool if you have a lot of artifacts. Return card to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. Huh. So you get to flicker a legendary creature, most likely. That can be good if you have something with flickering, or if you just want to save one of your legendary permanents. That's not terrible. It also would reset a saga if you wanted to reset a saga. So that's kind of interesting. I think that's kind of cool. Slyn Voda, Rising Deep, the Leviathan. When Slyn Voda, the Rising Deep, enters the battlefield, if it was kicked for 2, so if you pay 10 for this, return all creatures to their owner's hands, except for merfolk, krakens, leviathans, octopuses, and serpents. But not fish. That seems like a flavor fail to me. It bounces fish. Doesn't affect any other water folk things, but it bounces fish. Does anyone else see why that would be kind of a silly thing? Syncopate. This card, it's a decent card. It's something I'd probably take because it does exile, so any graveyard shenanigans can be knocked off pretty easily. It's just a decent counterspell. This card seems fun. I like this cycle of 3 costs. 3 of a specific color cost. They kind of want you to go monocolored, but they do something really awesome. So the white one was, what was the white one? Let's go back to the white ones. I don't remember what the white one was. But they all seem pretty good when I've seen. The ones I've seen have all been pretty decent. So this was the Benalish. So this is just a creature buff. That card is great. Now this card, he's decent too. He's a flyer. He's a 0/4, but he's not going to be a 0/4. Most of the time, he's going to be at least a 3/4 when you cast him. And he flies. That's a pretty decent card. I think that's definitely runnable. It's a good card. It gets bigger if late game. This card's just fine. I like this card. I think this whole cycle is pretty decent, actually. Tetsuo Umezawa, Fugitive. So this card harkens back to some old lore, which is kind of cool. I'm glad that they did this. He is an immortal that actually killed Bolas. He's the only person who has killed Bolas. Others have tried. He has succeeded. So creatures you control with power 1 or toughness 1 or less can't be blocked. Nice. So this makes your little dudes just kind of get in. Death by 1,000. What is it? Death by 1,000 pinpricks? Time of Ice. Tap target creature. Return all tapped creatures. It's going to be okay. Well, 2/3 for 3. That's fine. Counter target. You're not going to be excited to play this, but it's fine. Counter target non-creature spell. Untap up to 3 lands. So it seems like it's free, but you have to leave the mana up. Or it's not free. But it can be good, especially if you have any dual lands, because it's 3 lands. So let's say they try to kill spell something. So this card actually kind of makes you want to play in a more proper manner where you don't cast your creatures and stuff until your second main phase unless you have a really good reason to do so. So let's say they try to kill something of yours with a kill spell. You just counter that, and then you get the land back, so you still can do stuff with your mana. That card is actually pretty good. I'd play that. Definitely play that. Um, Vidalian. Vidalian. Yeah. Add one colorless. Spend this mana only to cast. So he's a mana dork for instants and sorceries. It's okay if you have a lot of instants and sorceries. I don't think you're going to have a lot of instants and sorceries. Though blue is the color that would do that. So this does two things. It lets you draw 3 cards and then mill your opponent or yourself if you want to put something in the graveyard. So that, it depends on how you build your deck, what you're going to target, but it's not a bad card. It's a pretty decent card. Wizard's Retort. I like this card. If you control a wizard, you get Counterspell. That just seems fun. I like countering stuff with a real Counterspell. I like 2-mana counters. I might be the only one, but I like them. Zahid, Djinn of the Lamp. You may pay 4 and tap an untapped artifact you control rather than pay this spell's mana cost. So if you have an artifact, you get this out on turn 4. That seems good. That card's good. That is definitely first pickable. Would not be disappointed if I opened this in draft. I would definitely take this first pick. So let's see what we got here in black. Yay, we're to the third color. 2/2 for 2. Target creature gets +2/+1. It's not terrible. Whenever you cast a historic spell, it deals... Okay, so if you build your deck around this can be really decent. Anytime you can do some give yourself some extra reach, it's nice because it's nice to be able to just stop your opponent or do something that interferes with them or possibly in the game in a way that they weren't expecting it. So essentially this becomes a burn spell if you build your deck right, if you draft right. So let's see. Oh, this is going to be fun in Commander. So it's a 2 for 2, you get a 1/3. If you kick it for 4, so essentially for 6, you get a 1/3 that forces your opponent, all of your opponents, to discard 2 cards. This is going to see Commander play. I'm pretty sure it's going to see Commander play. It just seems like a decent card. And at common, it should be interesting. This is going to be fun in Two-Headed Giant also. Cast down. This card's going to be really great. Even in this set, there's a lot of targets for it. But in Standard, this is going to be a staple. And honestly, I've seen the image of what the promo is going to look at this, like the Friday night promo for this, and it is gorgeous. I love what they've done with the promos, and I'm glad they chose such a good card for it. So let's see what's next. Chainer's Torment. And this is an uncommon. Chainer's Torment drains for 2 on the first and second one. That one's fine. And then on the third one, you're going to lose half your life total to get a big dude. Depends on what your life total is, if this is going to be good or bad. But that's not a terrible thing. So if you're at 8, you get a 4/4. Hopefully you're not at like 1. You just die. So this does nothing well. And if they can get you to a certain point where they want you, they can kill you with it. So this could be a double-edged sword, but it's still a good card. Dark Bargain. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. Put 2 of them into your... Ooh, it's a draw spell. Black draw spell. It's good. Moving on. Black always trades off life total for cards. Thalids. We're going to play fun guys. When Deathloom Thalid dies, create more fungus. That is so flavorful. That is awesome. I actually think that card is really cool. Nature is not always gentle or kind, but all life begets life. Alright. Demonic Vigor. Enchanted creature dies. Return that. This card's decent. So, you're going to put this on a creature you don't want to die. that you want on the battlefield. They kill said creature, you get it back to your hand, you get to play it again. Seems good. That's fine for 1 mana. I like this card. This card's great. Let's see what the Demon Lord does. So he's 4 and 2 black for a flying trampling 6/6. That seems good. When he enters the battlefield, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card. Then put that card into your hand. If the card's converted mana cost is 4 or greater, repeat this process. Demon Lord Belzenot deals 1 damage to you for each card put into your hand this way. So, at its worst, when you cast this, you get to draw a card and take a damage. But you could draw more cards and take damage. I'm okay with this. This seems good. This seems great. Divest. Target player reveals their hands. You choose an artifact or creature card from it. Yeah, this card's going to be good. Limited, it'll just be okay. But, I mean, limited, it's still decent. You can still run it if you need to. But this is going to be like your 22nd, 23rd card in your deck. But in a control deck in Standard, this is going to see play. This is going to see a fairly decent amount of play over the next 2 years. Here's our 3-cost black spell. It's called Dread Shade. And it just pumps. And it's a 3/3 for 3, which is great for black. Black doesn't usually pass the vanilla test with its creatures, but this one does. And it gets bigger. This card's decent. This card's it's definitely playable. It's a good card. I like this cycle, like I said. Excuse me. Sparkling water. Yay! So next we have Drudge Central. It gains indestructible until the end of turn. I'm okay with this. I think this is replacing Regenerate. Regenerate was a weird mechanic that a lot of people just didn't understand. And it still happens, but that's interesting too, because they can't. So one of the biggest drawbacks with Regenerate was that it kept it on the battlefield tapped. This doesn't. So this means you're going to have a blocker that survives. So you can block all day, which is fine. I mean, he's a 2/1 for 3 mana. That's not great, and you're just pumping 3 mana into him constantly. But he could be okay. It just really depends. So Eldest Reborn at uncommon. I like that a lot of stuff's at uncommon. Each opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker. I like that. Each opponent discards a card. Seems good. 3. Put target creature or planeswalker from a graveyard onto the battle. Okay. So let me get this straight. If they have a planeswalker in their graveyard, I just get it? I know it's Magical Christmas Land. I know this. But I want it to happen. That is going to be hilarious. Or a creature that they deal with. Plus it's an edict effect. I'm okay with this. I am okay with this. Alright, Eviscerate. Standard black destroy creature spell. There's always at least one in black. 5/5 Death Touch for 6. That's great. It'll see play in limited. Search your library for 2 cards. Don't be fooled by these. These are not good in limited. They are not going to help you. It might be okay in Commander, where you can do silly things by searching stuff up. But as for what it's going to do in limited, this is not a good card. This is not a card you want to play with in limited. It's 5 mana, do nothing. And that's just not a limited card I want to play. Alright, Fungal Infection. For 1, you could kill something with 1 toughness, including something with indestructible. And you get a dude. That seems good. I like that. That's a decent common. Jasuves Lich Knight. So he's a 4 cost, 4/5. That's reasonable. With Menace. That's great. That's a decent card. I'd play that just like it is. But for 6 more, so for a total of 10, when it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, create 8. 8. That does say 8. 2/2 Black Zombie Knight creature tokens with Menace. So if you play this for 4, you're doing great. Turn 4, this is great. If you play this for 10, your opponent is going to die. Seems good. So Karov, Singer Pureblood. He's a 7-drop 4/4 with flying. And if a creature an opponent controls is dealt damage, put a counter on it. So Singer Vampire type thing. But you can play 3 in a red to deal 2 damage to target creature. That seems good. I'd play that. It's a little expensive. It won't see too much other play, but it's a decent card. Knight of Menace. So this is the other half of the Knight cycle that we saw in white. I think these are going to be really. They're going to see play in limited for sure. They're definitely decent cards. Yeah, not much. Same thing to say about the white one. It's decent. Lich's Mastery. It's a legendary enchantment for 3 and 3 black that says hexproof. You can't lose the game. Whenever you gain life, draw that many cards. Cool. Whenever you lose life, for each 1 life you lost, exile permanent you control or a card from your hand or graveyard. When this leaves the battlefield, you die. So if they have any enchantment removal, you just die. Man, is that a double-edged sword. It can be so good, but it can backfire. It's not a bad card. Oh wait, no, it does say hexproof. They can't target it. It dies to itself, but like Urza's Ruinous Blast does not kill this. Just realized that. If they have the Leviathan, if that bounces this, you just die. So it could be good, or if they can do enough damage to you, you just die. It could be good, but it could be bad too. So be aware that you want to make sure that you've got a lot of big-butted creatures if you're going to run this. Whenever you cast a historic spell, you may pay 1. If you do, return it to your graveyard from your graveyard to your hand. That's reasonable. It's not great, but it's reasonable. It's still, this is fine late game because they finally get rid of it. And let's say you cast something and you can cast it again. That's not terrible. I mean, it doesn't have evasion or anything, but it's not terrible. Phyrexian Scriptures at Mythic. Put a +1/+1 counter on up to 1 target creature. That creature becomes an artifact in addition to its other types. On your next turn, destroy all non-artifact creatures. So you get to keep 1, and they're probably going to lose all theirs, unless they're running artifacts. Then this card's just not going to be good. Third one, exile cards from all opponents' graveyards. That one's kind of This you're running for the board wipe. It's a board wipe. It's going to be decent. Rat Colony. Rat Colony gets +1/+0 for each other rat you control. A deck can have any number of rats in it. Somebody's going to try and pull this off in Standard. Just because it's silly. That's all I got to say about that card. Bells and Locks. Rite of Bells and Lock. Create 2/01 black cleric tokens. Destroy, okay, and that's on 1 and 2. The second one, create a 6/6 black creature token with flying, trample, and at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice another creature. If you can't, this hits you for 6. So for 4, you're going to get a total of 5 creatures. this creature is going to eat this, but this is a 6/6 flying with trample. That seems good. Seems okay. I'm okay with this. So if you can have any creatures with on-death triggers, this gets even better. So, yeah, this is a good card. All right. Settle the score. At uncommon, exile target creature. Put 2 loyalty counters on a planeswalker you control. So if you ignore the mediocre limited upside of the loyalty token counters, this says exile target creature for 4. Normally that is at 5. And if you have a planeswalker, this gets that much better. So this will probably see at least some amount of standard play, especially since it deals with things like the Scarab God. It deals with the Hour of Devastation. Well, it deals with all the gods, actually. And if you're... And a lot of them are running some, like red with Hazoret. I'm getting rid of Hazoret. And if you're running any planeswalker with it, your planeswalker just gets a little bit bigger. That seems good. I mean, yes, it's at sorcery speed, so it's a little slow, but it'll remain I think people are going to experiment with this one. I don't know exactly how good it's going to be, but people are going to experiment with it, and I think it's going to see some standard play. So I'm not even going to venture into what's going to see modern play, because that is a whole other world that I don't understand. Let's see. Soul Salvage. Return up to 2 target creature cards from your graveyard to your hand. Meh. It's going to be okay. Stronghold Confessor. So it's a 1/1 for 1 with a kicker of 3. It has Menace, so it's got some sort of removal. Or not removal, evasion. If it was kicked, okay, so it's a 1/1 for 1 with Menace, or it's a 3/3 for 4 with Menace. I'm okay with either one of those. This is something I'd be happy to pick up. This is a great creature. Probably not going to play it as a 1-drop very often. Probably most of the time you're going to play it as a 4-drop. But that's perfectly reasonable. Thallid Omnivore. 1. Sacrifice another creature. Thallid Omnivore gets +2/+2 until the end of turn. If a Saproline was sacrificed this way, you gain 2 life. It's okay. It's not bad. There's definitely a fungus theme going on. Thallid Soothsayer. Sacrifice a creature, draw a card. Cool. I don't see a lot of if a creature dies effects. Huh. Alright, so Togar Famine Incarnate. Let's see what this guy does. He's got a lot of text. He's an 8-drop, 7/6. As an additional cost to cast this spell, you may sacrifice any number of creatures. This spell costs 2 less to cast for each creature sacrificed this way. Huh, that's not bad. So it is possible if you sacrifice 3 creatures to pay 2 for this. Interesting. When this thing enters the battlefield, up to 1 target player's life total becomes... You are at half. Okay, I like this card. This card's hilarious. I want to open this card. This card just... Yes, it makes me happy. Uno Ghost, the empty one. Flying, when it enters the battlefield, or when it deals combat damage to a player, that player discards a card at random. If the player can't, you draw a card. Hey, cool. Black card draw. And hand destruction. I like this card. This card's fine. Vicious Offering. Kicker, sacrifice creature. So, at its worst, it's going to do -2/-2 if you can't sacrifice a creature and pay 2. That's reasonable. We do that in Amonkhet all the time. Or not Amonkhet, Rivals all the time. If the spell is kicked, that creature gets -5/-5. That's pretty good removal. That's a solid card. That card's great. Alright. Whisper Blood Liturgist. For 4, you get a 2/2. See what the text is that says sacrifice 2 creatures. Return target creature card from your graveyard to your battlefield. Huh. Okay. So it's a reanimator. If you could have like a token strategy, would be great with this. Because just reanimate all kinds of stuff. And again, it's an uncommon, and it does silly things. Let's see. Windgrace Acolyte. Flying. When it enters the battlefield, put the top 3 cards of your library into your graveyard and gain 3 life. It's going to be okay. It's not going to be great, but it's going to be okay. Yorgul, Glutton of Orbog. 5 cost, 9/3. So, 9 power for 5 mana. I'm okay with this. He's definitely not a first pick, but he's okay. Yawgmoth's Vile Offering. Legendary sorcery. Put up to 1 target creature or planeswalker from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. Destroy up to 1 target creature or planeswalker, and then exile it. Huh, that's not bad. That's fairly good. I like the reanimator theme in black. I think it's going to be fun to play with. Let's see. Red. Let's see what we got here. Bloodstone Goblin. Whenever you cast a spell, if that spell is kicked, it gains +1/+1 and menace. That's not bad. It's not terrible. For 2/2 for 2, that's fine with a marginal upside. I'll take it. 1/1 for 2, and if it's equipped, it gets +2/+2 for each aura and equipment attached to it. So your first one, regardless of what the equipment is or the aura is, makes it a 3/3 with trample. That seems good. You have to build around it a little bit, but that seems good. Fervent Strike. Target creature gets +1/+0 and gains first strike and haste. Not terrible. Fiery Intervention. For 5, you get to do 5 damage or destroy an artifact. It's an expensive abrade. Okay. Not bad, it's just not great. Fight with Fire. So for 3, Fight with Fire does 5 damage to target creature. If you pay 6 more, so for 9, this spell deals 10 damage divided as you choose among... Oh, that seems good. So you can do 10 damage. Let's say they have an army of 2/2s. This can kill 5 2/2s. I mean, yeah, it's 9 mana, but that's fine at that point. Or for 3 mana, you can kill something. That's good. It's going to be good early game. It's going to be good late game. I'm good with this. Fire Elemental is okay. When Fire Fist enters the battlefield, it deals X damage to target creature an opponent controls, where X is the number of wizard. Ooh! So if you play Wizard Tribal, this is a really interesting possible finisher or just burn spell. This is actually a fairly decent card. I like this card a lot. The first eruption. The first eruption deals 1 damage to each creature without flying. Cool. Add 2 red mana. Sacrifice a mountain. If you do, it deals 3 damage to each creature. It's okay. It's not terrible, but it's okay. It's playable. Flame of Keld. Discard your hand. I don't like that. Draw 2 cards. I like that. If a red source would deal damage to a permanent you or player this turn, it deals that much damage +2. I'm not excited about this card. I think of all the uncommon sagas I've seen, I think it's one of the weakest. It's just okay. It's not great, it's just okay. +2/+1 and menace for 2. That's reasonable. That's definitely playable. Get 2 Chronicle. For 2, you get a 1/3. For 6, you get a 1/3 that when it enters the battlefield, return target instant or sorcery from your graveyard to your hand. That's okay. Again, this gets better. I mean, it's still good as a 1/3 for 2. That's reasonable. You can deal with that. Um, but it gets better if you've built a deck of instants and sorceries. But even as a vanilla, just 1/3 for 2, it's decent. It's playable. So for 3, you get a 3/2. When Gitu Journey Mage enters the battlefield, if you control another wizard, it deals 2 damage to each opponent. Seems good to me. For common, that's great. So for the, let's see what the Gitu Lava Runner. For 1, you get a 1/2. Not terrible. As long as there are 2 or more instant and sorcery cards in your graveyard, it gets +1/+0 and has haste. So I think red-blue has a pretty strong spells deck, which makes sense because it's the wizards deck. So it's decent, but it only becomes a 2/2 with haste late game. That's only okay. But it is a 1-drop, so take what you can get, right? Goblin Barrage. For 4, it deals 4 damage to target creature. Now, if you pay the kicker price of sacrificing a goblin or an artifact, it deals 4 damage to target player. It also deals 4 damage to target player or planeswalker. So a total of 8 damage if you... Yeah, that seems good. I'm okay with this. That's not a bad card. Goblin Chain Whirler. So this is our 3 cost for red. Let's see what we get. We get a 3/3 first strike. That's pretty good. When it enters the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to each opponent and each creature and planeswalker they control. Interesting. Definitely not a bad card. It's definitely playable and definitely solid. So, goblin spells cost you 1 less to cast. Goblins you control have haste. Okay, I'll take it. I think Goblin Tribal is one of the other goblins that you, or one of the other tribals has things that you see in this. Doesn't affect the Chain Whirler, but it affects all your other goblins, which is kind of cool. It's a decent 3-drop. Haphazard Bombardment. When it enters the battlefield, choose 4 non-enchantment permanents you don't control, and put an aim counter on each of them. At the beginning of your aim step, if 2 or more permanents you don't control have an aim counter on them, destroy 1 of those permanents at random. Huh. It's risky, but it's interesting. So that's interesting. That is very interesting. And it destroys lands also. That's interesting. It's risky, but it's interesting. So Jaya Ballard. This is one of the planeswalkers. There are 3 in the set. So let's see what she does. For +1, you get add 3 mana. Spend this only on instant or sorcery spells. Again, limited. It's going to be moderately useful. But her second ability is also a +1 ability that allows you to discard up to 3 cards and then draw that many. So it allows you to cycle things. So let's say you draw a land and you didn't want to land. At 5 mana, you probably don't want to land. You discard it to draw a card. That's perfectly fine with me. And the -8. You get an emblem with, you may cast instants and sorcery cards from your graveyard. If a card cast this way would be put into your graveyard, exile it instead. So it gives all your instants and sorceries flashback. That's not bad. She'll probably see some amount of standard play. Jaya's Immolating Inferno. Jaya's Immolating Inferno deals X damage to up to 3 targets. So each target takes X damage. So it's a fireball for those targets. So this is going to be great in 2-Headed Giant. Oh my god, this is dumb in 2-Headed Giant. Essentially, you target each of your opponents and you hit them for, let's say you pump 5 mana into it. They're each going to take 3, which means they take a total of 6. Oh, ouch. That's kind of fun. So let's see what we have here. We have Keldon Overseer. For 2 and a red, you get a 3/1 with haste. And if you pay 2 red and 5, so a total of 7, if it's kicked, it gains control. Oh, it's threatened effect. Yeah, that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. I like that. I like that effect. I think it's a neat effect. So Keldon Raider, you get a 4/3 for 4. When it enters the battlefield, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. Not terrible. That is at common, so that's not bad. That's a way for red to draw a card. Red doesn't get a whole lot of card draw. They do get this looting effect, so that's fairly reasonable. Alright, Keldon Warcaller. Whenever it attacks, put a lore counter on target. Okay, so this allows you to manipulate your lore counters on your sagas. That's not terrible. If you've kind of drafted a saga deck, that actually makes it a lot better. Orcish Vendel. Sacrifice an artifact. Orcish Vendel deals 2 damage to any target. Okay, so I get to throw my stuff at you. Seems fun. Radiating Lightning. Radiating Lightning deals 3 damage to target player and 1 damage to each creature that player controls. Okay. That seems okay. It's not great, but it's okay. This card, I don't like this card. Rampaging Cyclops gets -2, -0, as long as 2 or more creatures are blocking it. So chances are they're just gonna like double or triple block this so that they don't lose anything. Because it's as soon as 2 creatures are blocking it, it's a 2/4. It doesn't get smaller than a 2/4, but it's not gonna kill much. So. So we run amok. For 2, target creature gets +3/+3 and gains trample until the end of turn. That's a perfectly reasonable combat trick. For 4, destroy a target land. Up to 2 target creatures can't block. Oh, that's going to be good. That's going to be a finisher. We're going to see this as a finisher in limited. Because it's going to make it to where your opponent can't block, which is usually a fairly decent thing. Shivan Fire. For 1, you do 2 damage to target creature. That seems great. And for 5, it deals 4 damage to that creature instead. That's okay, but I'll take the 1 for 2. That seems great. So, it gets rid of little things, it gets rid of big things. Just depends on what you need. It's a very versatile spell. Siege Gang Commander. For 5, you get a Goblin 2/2. When it enters the battlefield, you get 3 red 1/1 goblins. That's pretty cool. For 2, sacrifice a goblin. Deals 2 damage to any target. Seems good. Skirk Protector. 1, sacrifice it, you get 1 red, and it's a 1/1. It's okay. Depends on what you're going to use it for. Skizix. This is a reprint, so was the last one. So we're going to move over it pretty quick. So if you pay 4, you get a 5/3 that gets with haste and trample that gets sacrificed at the end of turn. If you play 5, you get a 5/3 that with trample and haste. Seems reasonable. This card, I was talking with some people about, and they're saying how great it is. And the ability is really cool. The ability to be able to cast it from anywhere, including your graveyard or exile, is amazing. However, it's a 2/1 for 3. This card's not going to help you when you're behind. Early game, it's okay. Mid to late game, it's not something I want to be doing with 3 mana. There are better things I can do, unless my hand's completely empty. I think it's a neat design. I am probably never... And I'm the first one to admit that I will probably get my face stomped with this card more than once. But I don't think it's a good card. I don't like this card. 2-headed giant. Alright, so for 4, you get a 4/4. Seems good. Two-headed giant attacks. Flip 2 coins. If both are heads, it gains double strike. Cool. If both are tails, it gets menace. This is a funny design. Basically, if both heads of the giant agree to do something, they get to do it. Otherwise, they're just kind of yelling at each other, and they still smack you for 4. But 4 is still good. It's still good. I don't think it's good enough to see any sort of standard play, but it's going to see limited play, and it will be funny in limited. It will be, and I'm sure somebody just for giggles will play this in Commander. So, Valkut, Keeper of the Flame. This says, at the beginning of your combat on your turn, for each warrior equipment attached to it, create a 3/1 elemental creature token with trample and haste. Exile those tokens at the beginning of the end step. That's not terrible. When it attacks at the beginning of your combat, so you get to attack with 3/3/3s? At least. That seems good. So, Varix Bladewing. I like this card. I actually saw the preview for this. So it's a 4/4 with flying. That has a kicker of 3. So if you pay 7, you get 2 4/4s with flying. Yeah, I'm good with this. Yeah, this card's first pickable. This card's great. Warcry Phoenix. For 4, flying haste. Whenever you attack with 3 or more creatures, you may pay 2 in red. If you do, return it to the battlefield tapped and attacking. I seem to remember this card. I think it was printed before. I don't think this is the first time it's been printed. I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. Warlord's Fury. Creatures you control gain first strike until the end of turn. Draw a card. Ooh, you know what this works with? The knight guy that gives all of your creatures with first strike, double strike. So, if you're playing red-white, this card, and you have that card, this card gets a lot better. Because basically what it says at that point is, all of my dudes have double strike. I like that. I really like that. I like this card. I think it's an interesting card. I think it combos with stuff. It's not going to be good in every deck. Don't think I'm thinking that, but yeah. Wizard's Lightning. So I love this and the blue counterspell. That's really a throwback to Alpha and Beta. I think that is really great because this spell costs 2 less to cast if you control a wizard. It deals 3 damage to any target. So this is Lightning Bolt when you control a wizard. Don't need any more than that. Lightning Bolt is still good. So let's move on to green. Yay, we're almost through. We've got green, multicolor, and artifacts, and then we're done. Yay! So, Adventurous Impulse. One of the top 3 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature or land from among them and put it into your hand. The rest on the bottom of your library in any order. This seems good. I mean, it looks at less cards than Commune, but it's not looking for something as specific. So this is a decent card. Definitely playable in limited. Maybe even outside of limited. Put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. If it's a legendary, then it fights target creature and opponent controls. Seems good. So it's a fight card, but if it's legendary, it's Hunt the Weak. Hunt the Weak if you have a legendary for 2. I'll take that. Arbor Armament. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. That creature gains reach until the end of turn. This is not terrible. It's great against flyers. I'm not sure how good it's going to be. It's kind of one of those, it's either going to be fairly great or it's going to be mediocre. It really depends on how games play out. Balaf Gorger. So it's a 4/4/4. That's great. But it's for 8. It enters the battle as a 7/7. Sure, I'll take it. Broken Bond. I like the art on this. Sad art, but I like the art on it. For 2, Destroy target artifact or enchantment. You may put a land card from your hand to the battlefield. This is going to see some amount of play. It's reasonable. It's not great per se, but it's definitely something that there's a lot of fairly good enchantments in this set. We haven't gotten to the artifacts, so I can't say artifacts yet, but there's definitely some decent enchantments. So this is going to see some amount of play. And it's going to solve problems. Corrosive Ooze. I like oozes. When Corrosive Ooze blocks or becomes blocked by an equipped creature, destroy all equipment attached to that creature at the end of combat. That's not a bad card, especially since it's just a 2/2 for 2 with a decent upside. I'll play that. Elf Flame Druid. So it's a 2-drop O2 that you can tap for green, or tap for double green to spend on kicker spells. That's not terrible. I think there's a really nice mana ramp flavor to this set, which is nice because if you can get the biggest thing out early, you're all that better off. So, all right, Fungal Plots. 2 cost, enchantment. For 2, 1 and a green, exile a creature card from your graveyard. Create a 1/1 Saproling token. Sacrifice 2 Saprolings, gain 2 life, and draw a card. That seems decent. It's a card draw engine for green, which green doesn't get a lot of card draw. So this is actually a pretty good card for green. Gaia's Blessing. Target player shuffles up to 3 target cards from the graveyard into their library. Draw a card. When it is put into the graveyard from your library, shuffle your graveyard into your library. Okay. Interesting. So if it gets milled, it goes back in. So it's good against the little bit of mill sub-themes that are going on in blue. But the others, it's okay. If you have good stuff to return, it's okay. It's not terrible. It's not great. It's not great at all, but it's not terrible. So Gaia's Protector must be blocked if able, and it's a 4/2 for 4. It's okay. It'll see play. It'll see play in limited anyway. It's playable. It's not great. You're not excited to play it, but it's okay. Gift of Growth for 2. Untap target creature. It gets +2/+2 until the end of turn. But if you play 4, that creature gets +4/+4 instead of +2/+2. That's pretty decent. That's a pretty good combat trick. Grow from Ashes. So for 3, search your library for a basic land card and put it onto the battlefield and then shuffle your library. If you pay 5, search for 2 lands and put them into the battlefield. So it's a decent mana fixer. This card's reasonable. Okay, I love this card. This card makes me so happy, and I love that it's uncommon. This is something that I will first pick almost over anything, because this card is amazing. So Grun the Lonely King for 4 and 2 green. Whenever it attacks alone, double its power and toughness until the end of turn. So if he's your only attacker, you swing for 10, just on its surface. Now if you pay 9 for this creature, you get a 10/10 that attacks as a 20/20. God, that makes me happy. Now, if I first pick this, I will first pick every single mana dork I can find, just so that I can get closer to having 9 mana to cast it for 9 mana. That card is awesome. And there's another card a little down here, One of My Elves was reprinted. Yeah, I'm going to take them. So, Karmal's Druidic Vow. Look at the top X cards of your library. You may put any number of land or legendary permanent cards with converted mana cost X or less from among them onto the battlefield. Put the rest into your graveyard. Depending on how much you pay for this can be either really great, depending on how you built your deck, or it's just going to get a bunch of lands out of your deck. Or you're just going to be filtering, which is okay. It's not great, but it's okay. Krosan Druid. For 3, you get a 2/3. And if he was kicked for 5 more, so total of 8, you gain 10 life. Seems good late game. You know, a way to gain life is definitely decent. Seems decent. Llanowar Elves. This card's going to be great if you're in green. It's just going to be great because it's one of the best mana accelerants in the game ever printed. Llanowar Envy. An Envoy. 1 and a green, add 1 mana of any color, so it's a color fixer. It's not a good color fixer, but it's also a 2/3. It's a 3/2 for 3. That is reasonable. And if you need the kind of color fixing, you have it. Llanowar Scout. You may put 1 land card from your hand onto the battlefield. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but this card, at the end of your opponent's turn, you can tap it to put extra lands into play. Because you're not playing a card, you are putting it into play. You're not playing the land. I like this card. This card's cool. You know, that's a way to play lands on your opponent's turn. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. But, yeah. 3/5 reach for 5's decent. Alright, this card I've heard a lot about. So whenever another elf enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. So it's a 1/1 for 3, which is it. But add 1 green mana equal to its power. For each green, add 1 to its power. Or for each power, add 1 green. So this is going to see Commander play. Elf Ball just got stronger. Mending of Dominaria. Put 2 cards from your library into your graveyard, and then you may return a creature card from your graveyard to your hand. That's pretty good. I mean, it's a way to dig for stuff. Return all land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield, then shuffle your graveyard into your library. I like this card. It's decent. I don't know that it's first pick, but it's decent. It's a decent card. It's definitely a reasonable card. Miltani Yavamaya's Avatar. Okay, so he's a 0/0. He's got to be better than that. So for 6, you get Reach, Trample, and it gets +1/+1 for each land you control and each land in your graveyard. So most of the time he's going to be a 6/6 until you play more lands, and then he gets bigger, so he scales, which is great. For 1 and a green, return 2 lands you control to their owner's hand. Return it from your graveyard to your hand. This guy just doesn't go away. I like this card. This card's great. I like this. I will play this. If I open this card, I will play this. This card's great. Nature's Spiral. Return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. Reasonable. Sky Pierce. Deals 7 damage to target creature with flying. Typical Plummet. I'm okay with this. Primordial Worm. He's a big dude. That's all he is. Sapperling Migration. It's a 2-cost sorcery. Create 2 green sapperling tokens. Cool. If you pay 6 for this, you get 4 sapperlings. I'm okay with either one of those, actually. Song of Freylis. Until your next turn, creatures you control gain tap to add 1 mana of any color. That's reasonable. It's mana acceleration and mana fixing. Put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. These creatures gain Vigilance, Trample, and Indestructible to the end of turn. That's pretty cool. I like that. That seems pretty cool. That's a really nice card. It's neat. Spore Spawn. Create 3 1/1 green sapling token creature tokens for 4. That's not terrible. That seems good. Tokens are good. Going wide is good. Spore Crown Valid. 2 for 2/2 at uncommon. Each other creature you control that's a fungus or a sapling gets +1/+1. So this is a great card if you can draft a fungus sapling deck, which seems to be a pretty good thing you could do here. I like this. I like that. Here's our 3-cost green Steel Leaf Champion. It is a 5/4 for 3 that says it cannot be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. I like this card. It is, if it goes down, it is taking things with it. Sylvan Awakening. Until your next turn, all lands you control become 2/2 elemental creatures with reach, indestructible, and haste. They're still lands. And this is until your next turn. So this helps you if you need to block a bunch of flyers. This helps you if you just want to swing in with a lot. I mean, flood the board with lands and swing. That's fine. And it's just a decent card. I like this card. This card's great. This is a good finisher. This to me feels like a bomb. So this is going to be a decent creature. Also, blanks there. Well, you can't cast it in response because it's sorcery. All right, Territory Allosaurus. For 4, you get a 5/5. Seems good. If you pay 7 for it, it fights a creature when it enters the battlefield. I want this for my Dino Commander deck. Seems good. Thorn Elemental. I'm pretty sure this is a reprint. It's a 7/7 for 7, and you may have Thorn Elemental assign combat damages though it weren't blocked. So they block it with enough to kill it. You just put a pump spell and hopefully beat their face in with it. Seems good. It's reasonable. Untamed Kabu. For 2, you get a 2/2. Seems good with Trample and Vigilance. That's good. For 5, you get a 2/2 with... Oh, no. You get a 5/5 with Vigilance and Trample. That's a really good uncommon. I like that card. That card's great. Green seems really solid. Verdant Force. This is a reprint. I know this is... I'm pretty sure this is a reprint. For 8, you get a 7/7. At the beginning of your upkeep, create a 1/1 green sapling token. So you just continually get dudes. Wild Onslaught. For 4, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. For 8, if you get 2 counters on each creature you control. Seems good early game, seems good late game. Yavimaya Sapherd. When Yavimaya Sapherd enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 green sapling creature token. Seems good. You just get 3 power for 3 mana. That's perfectly fine. So now we get to the multicolor. Now the uncommons are they're kind of like signposts. They tell you what the colors are wanting to do. They kind of hint at the themes. So these are kind of cool. So Adelites the Cinderwind. For 1 blue and a red, you get a 2/2 legendary creature human wizard with flying and haste. I already like him. I guess it's a her. It's a her. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, wizards you control get +1/+1. Okay, so it's prowess for your team. That's kind of neat. That's just kind of neat. Arvid, the Cursed. Legendary creature, vampire knight. 3, a black and a white for a 3/3. Death Touch and Lifelink. I already like this guy. Other legendary creatures you control get +2/+2. Seems decent. Ariel, Knight of Windgrace, is a 2 white and a black 4/4 legendary creature human knight with vigilance. She has an activated ability of 2 and a white for creature. Create a 2/2 white knight with vigilance. That's cool. For a black and tap X, untap knights you control, destroy target creature with power X or less. That seems good. This is a decent card. That's pretty good. It's definitely not terrible. Darigaz reincarnated. For 4 and Jund, you get a legendary dragon 7/7 with flying, trample, and haste. If he would die, instead exile it with 3 egg counters on it. At the beginning of your upkeep, if it is exiled with an egg counter on it, remove an egg counter. Then, if it has no egg counters, return it to the battlefield. So essentially, he gives himself suspend for 3. That's cool. He just keeps coming back. He's really hard to get rid of. And he has haste. Whew. This guy's nasty. Garner the Blood Flame. For 3, a black and a red, you get a 3/3 with Flash. Flash? I guess black gets Flash. When Garner the Blood Flame enters the battlefield, return to your hand all creature cards in your graveyard that were put there from anywhere this turn. Other creatures you control have haste. Seems good. She's okay. Grand Warlord Radha. He is 2, a red, and a green for a 3/4 with haste. He's an elf warrior. She, I guess. That is a she. Wow, I'm bad at this today. Whenever one or more creatures you control attack, add that much mana in any combination of red or green until the end of the turn. Oh, this card's good. Uh-huh. That card's nuts. That card's nuts. I like this card. This card's good. Halar the Fire Fetcher. It's 1, a red, and a green. For an elf archer, 3/3 with trample. Whenever you cast a spell, if that spell was kicked, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Then it deals damage equal to the number of +1/+1 counters on it to each opponent. I like that it says to each opponent. That seems good. Joyra, Weatherlight Captain. She's a mythic, 3/3 for 2, a red and a blue. And she says, whenever you cast a historic spell, artifacts, legendaries, and sagas are historic, draw a card. Simple design. Seems good. Joda, Archmage Eternal. I like this card. I think I want to build around this card, actually. This card is probably the next commander deck I'm thinking about building. He is 1, a red, a white, and a blue for a 4/3 flyer that you may pay 1 of each color, Wooburg, rather than pay the mana cost for the spells you cast. Oh, the silly things you can do with this. This card's silly. I like this card. Muldrotha the Gravetide. I like this card too. So 3, a black, a green, and a blue for a legendary creature elemental avatar. During each of your turns, you may play up to one permanent card of each permanent type from your graveyard. You still have to pay for it. But you can just basically say, go shopping in your graveyard. That card's going to be nuts in Commander. That is a nuts commander. Oath of Teferi. For 3 of blue and white, you get a legendary enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, flicker something. Basically flicker a card. Flicker a permanent. And you may activate the loyalty abilities of planeswalkers you control twice each turn. That's a typical Teferi thing. That's pretty cool. It's just okay. It's not going to see too much play in limited unless they are lucky and get a planeswalker. So, but he's not bad. Primeval's Glorious Rebirth. It's a legendary sorcery for 5, a white and a black that says, return all legendary permanent cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. This is either going to be really good for you or really bad for you. There's very little in between. Raf Capuchin, Ship's Mage. 2, a white and a blue for a 3/3 with flash and flying. You may cast historic spells as though they had flash. I like that. That's pretty cool. Plus a 3/3 flying flash for 4. That alone is playable. Rona, Disciple of Gix, Human Artificer. When it enters the battlefield, you may exile target historic spell from your graveyard. You may cast non-land cards exiled with Rona. Pay 4, tap to exile top card from your library. So, when you exile the card with this ability, you can play it again. You can also exile cards from your library to play them. So it becomes 4 tap, draw a card. As long as you can protect her. Shanna Sisay's Legacy. Can't be the target of abilities your opponents control, so it's kind of this weird hexproof thing. I think it's +1/+1 for each creature you control. For a true drop, that's certainly not bad. That's a decent creature. Slimefoot the Stowaway. Whenever a sapling you control dies, Slimefoot the Stowaway deals 1 damage to each opponent and you gain 1 life. Ooh, I like this card. And you can make more saplings. Blockers for days! Tatoyova, Benthic Druid. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life and draw a card. That's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool thing for blue-green to do. Teferi. Draw a card. At the beginning of the next end step, untap 2 lands. Oh, okay. So you draw a card. We get to enter your end step. You get to untap 2 lands. Hold up, counter magic. Yes. Put target non-land permanent into its owner's library 3rd from the top. Well, I can't cast it right away. That's pretty cool. And -8. Its ultimate is whenever you get an emblem with, whenever you draw a card, exile target permanent. Oh, that's dumb. That is so dumb. That means every turn you get to exile something. Every turn. You need to kill their stuff. And it does not say non-land permanent. I would like to point that out now. Destroy their mana base is a perfectly feasible thing to do with that. That card's dumb. In the best ways. Tiana, Ship's Caretaker. Alright, so for 5, we get a 3/3, first strike flying. Whenever an aura or equipment you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, you may return that card to its owner's hand at the beginning of the... Ooh, that's pretty cool. And Red-White seems to have this theme of attaching things. It's got an attachment theme. It's got attachment issues. So, colorless, we have our last Planeswalker, Karn, Scion of Urza. And his +1 ability is reveal the top 2 cards of your library. An opponent chooses one of them. Put that card into your hand and exile the other with a silver counter on it. -1. Put a card you own with a silver counter on it from exile into your hand. Okay. That's not terrible. -2. Create a 0/0 colorless construct artifact creature token with this creature gets +1/+1 for each artifact you control. That's a decent card. That's a good card. It's going to see play in a few places. I don't know what it's going to see play in, but I'm pretty sure it's going to see play. And now we get to the artifacts. This is a reprint. Flying and can't block, but it's 2/1 for 3 flying. Amorite Wall. Defender. 0/6 for 4. 2. It gains indestructible. So what you're saying is, I can block for days. It'll either be good or it'll be horrible. I like 06 walls. But they have to have a reason to be in there. Black Blade Reforged. For 2, you get a legendary equipment that says equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each land you control. For a legendary creature, it equips for 3. For non-legendary, it equips for 7. That's a decent card, and it should have targets for 3. Blood Tallow Candle. For 1, you get an artifact that you can pay 6 to sacrifice and give something -5/-5 till the end of turn. This is just like that Universal Solvent from Kaladesh. It will see play in Limited. It will definitely see play in Limited. Damping Sphere. If a land is tapped for 2 or more mana, so it has to be tapped for more than 1, it produces colorless instead of a regular type. So this wrecks things like what's the name of that card? Cascading Bluffs. Those kind of cards. The filter lands. Anything that taps for multiple, any land that taps for multiple mana. This will see commander play. Each spell a player casts costs 1 more to cast for. Oh, this is meant to stop. What is it? Modern deck. Meant to stop Storm. So it's definitely going to see commander play. 4 Bear's Blade, 2/2. You get 3/0 Vigilance and Trample, and whenever creature dies, attach it to target. Okay, so it attaches for free after the first time. Not terrible. Gilded Lotus, we've seen this before, but I do like the artwork. That is some pretty artwork. Let's see. Guardians of Koilos. Koilos? When Guardians of Koilos enters the battlefield, you may return another target historic permanent you control to its owner's hand. So it allows you to get a second into the battlefield effect out of your so basically it resets sagas. That's the best use of this. Other than legendaries with ETBs and that kind of thing. Helm of the Host. At the beginning of combat on your turn, create a token that's a copy of equipped creature, except it isn't legendary. If equipped creature is legendary, that token gains haste. So you get to attack with twins. Oh, and that token doesn't go away. I like this creature. I like this card. I think it can get silly and out of control, but I think it's a good card. Especially if you put this on any creature that has an ETB effect, you're going to constantly get that at the beginning of combat. So there was a creature that bounced other creatures. That's great. That's a great target for this. That card's good. That card's bonkers. Expensive, but bonkers. Howling Golem. For 3, you get a 2/3. Whenever it attacks or blocks, each player draws a card. I love that they took Howling Mind and animated it. Howling Mind is a silly card as it is, but this just does other silly things. Icy Manipulator, same old good thing. Alright, so Joyrus Familiar. For 4, you get a 2/2 flyer that when you that historic spells cost you 1 less to cast. Not terrible. Not the greatest thing, but not terrible. Jousting Lance. For 2, you get an 0/2. Creatures get 0/2. As long as it's your turn, they get first strike. It's okay. It equips for 3. Juggernaut's a reprint. This card's interesting. Whenever you cast a historic spell, you may pay 1. If you do, create a token that's a copy of Mishra's Self-Replicator. As a 2/2 for 5. So depends on how many times you can pull it off. I don't think this is a great card. It's an interesting card, but not a great card. Mox Amber. Just because this says Mox, it's going to go up in price. It's going to be fairly expensive. Add 1 mana of any color among legendary creatures and planeswalkers you control. Well, this is going to see commander play. Very much so. Navigator's Compass. For 1, it gives you 3 life when it enters the battlefield. Until end of turn, target land you control becomes the basic one. Okay, so this is a color fixer. So, like, say you only have driven. This is something that frustrates me in Limited a lot. Is like you will only draw one color. You will be missing a color in your main colors. Like your 2-color may be splashing for a third, and you don't draw your second color. So you use this to change that, to fix it. You're like, okay, this is a land now. This is now a plains also. 5/5 trample for 6. Seems decent. Power Stone Shard. If you draft a bunch of this card's going to get stupid. Because it just becomes all ramp. But it does cost 3. So it's going to be okay. It depends on what you have to cast with it. And there are some good targets. There are good ramp targets. So, and because there's kicker, this goes up in value a little bit. Shield of the Realm. If a source would deal 2 damage to equipped creature, prevent 2 of that damage. Okay. I'm not sure why it's uncommon. It's okay. I mean, it protects from, like, shock spells, but okay. Short Sword. For 1, equipped creature gets +1/+1, and equips for 1. It's okay. Not great, but it's okay. Skittering Servitor. When it enters the battlefield, you may search for a basic land card, reveal it, and put it in your hand and shuffle your library. I have a feeling this is going to see some amount of play in Commander. It's not ideal, but it will probably see some Commander play. Sorcerer's Wand. Equipped creature has tap. This creature deals 1 damage. If it's a wizard, it deals 2 instead. That seems cool. It's an addition to a wizard's deck. Seems good. Sparring Construct. For 1, you get a 1/1. When it does, put a 1/1 counter on something. So it leaves a present behind for another creature. That's a cool design. We've seen that be pretty good before. It just depends on the meta. Thran Temporal Gateway. Gortway. Jesus, I just said Gortway. Okay, it's getting late. For 4, you get a legendary artifact that says for 4 colorless mana, you can tap it. You may put a historic permanent card from your hand in the battlefield. So this is free casting anything that's colorless. Well, not really free casting, but it's, seems good. You don't get cast triggers off of this. But it will be good. And I'd have to think, but I'm pretty sure there's some pretty good targets for this. Traxos, Scourge of Krug. For 4, you get a 7/7 with Trample. But he enters the battlefield tapped and doesn't untap during your untap step. When you cast a historic spell, untap it. Seems good. It could be good, it could be bad. It depends. You're gonna have to build around this. This is a build around, but it doesn't take much to kill your opponent with a 7/7 Trampler. Urza's Tome. For 2, you pay 3 and tap it, draw a card, then discard a card unless you exile a historic card from your graveyard. It's okay. If you need card draw bad enough, that's fine. Voltaic Servant. For 2, you get a 1/3 at the beginning of your end step, untap target artifact. Well, there's a combo. So this guy's at common. If you first pick this, you are looking for as many of these as you can find. Just seems good. So, and the one vehicle in the set is the Weatherlight. Legendary artifact vehicle, flying. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a historic card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Crew 3 for 4/5. Seems decent. So you get to put a historic card. So this is going to be good even in limited. This is just a bomb. So and then our lands, we have Cabal Stronghold, where you pay 3 and you get 1 for each basic swamp you control. Seems good. I mean, I think it's just kind of an Orborg pseudo reprint. So it's decent. Clifftop, and then we got the fast lands, Clifftop Retreat, Hinterland Harbor, Isolated Chapel, Sulphur Falls, and Woodland Cemetery. And then we have these memorials, which I think are really cool. I like the design of these. They're very reminiscent of the, I think they were at Common, or were they? The utility lands from the Return to Zendikar block. Some of them are going to be better than others, but they're all kind of cool. So, like, we have Memorial to Folly, which they all enter the battlefield tapped, which is fine. They produce colored mana, but you can pay 2 and 1. Oh, the Blighted Cycle from the Zendikar, the last Zendikar block. I love those cards. They're very useful, and this very much reminds me of that. So, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. This can be decent depending on what you have in there. Draw 4 cards. For 4 and a blue, that's not terrible late game. This one creates dudes. That's fine. It doesn't really even cost you a card because at that point you probably used the land a few times. Alright, Memorial to Unity. Sacrifice, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card from among them and put it into your hand. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. Destroy target land. I lose the land, you lose the land. Maybe they have... so this one, I think is going to see more play elsewhere. I don't think it's going to see a lot of play in Limited. It's still decent. Like, you can get rid of their mana fixing. You can get rid of their Convulse Stranglehold or one of these cards if you want to. Just something you're not wanting to deal with. Or even this card, which is the last card we're going to look at tonight. It's called, oh great, Zhalfirin Void. Zhalfirin Void. And when it enters the battlefield, scry. And add a colorless mana. I love the scry lands from Pharaoh's block, and I think this is a great completion to that cycle. And I love that it doesn't enter the battlefield tapped. And then the basic lands are actually really pretty. They're very, very nice. I like this island. And I like this island. And it looks like we get 4 of each design. This one's cool. So is that one. I like this one. That was pretty. Ooh, I like lands. So we're at the end. So I'm going to call it a night. Thank you all for watching. I hope you got to go through it and help me sort out my thoughts. So until next time, I will be streaming again next Thursday. I'm not sure what we'll do yet, but we'll figure something out. It'll probably be some combination of Arena, and maybe I'll see if I can find some sealed deck generators, and we'll do a couple sealed decks with Dominaria. But again, thank you for watching. I had fun. Bye!